All right, good evening. I would like to call the Tuesday, February 4th, 2020 meeting of Michigan City Common Council to order. Can everyone please silence and turn off any electronic devices and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the silent prayer. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Nyla, on the roll call, please.
Mr. Dabney.
Present.
Mr. Paul Przybylski.
Present.
Mr. Mack.
Present.
Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Present.
Mr. Tillman. Mr. Simmons.
Present.
Ms. Deutsch. Present. And Mr. Don Przybylski.
Present.
And Mr. Stemley. We have 8 present and one absent.
Mr. Stemley did notify me sometime back that he would not be present today. Okay, approval of the minutes of our January 21st meeting. Everyone have a chance to review? If so, are there any corrections?
Motion to approve.
Support. Have a motion to approve by Councilman Simmons and a second by Councilman Paul Przybylski and Bryant Dabney. All in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Here, Minister. We have any reports of standing committees?
Yes, we do. February 4, 2020 Council Finance Committee meeting minutes. The Finance Committee meeting was called to order at 6 o'clock p.m. Tonight by Chairman Dabney to review claims filed since the last meeting. Committee members Tillman and Paul Przybylski were present, as well as Council members Don Przybylski, Fitzpatrick, and Simmons. City Controller Yvonne Hoffmaster was also in attendance. Claims review totaled $45,891.26 from the Riverboat Fund and $7,682.33 from the Boyd Development Fund for a total docket of $53,573.59. There were no other issues to discuss. Eventually, Councilman Przybylski moved to recommend approval of the docket with a second by Councilman Dabney. The motion was approved unanimously. On a motion by Councilman Przybylski and a second by Councilman Dabney, the meeting was adjourned at 6:12 p.m. But I would like to announce that there wasn't something else that came up in the committee meeting tonight. The Council Finance Committee took a vote to add a payment to the claims docket of $35,964.70. That would come from the Riverboat. And this was from an invoice that was past due, that had gotten lost in the shuffle, basically. So we added that to tonight's docket. And that's how we came up with the total of $53,573.59. So the summary of claims are as follows. From the Riverboat Fund, the LaPorte County Sheriff, $2,434.54. Indiana Smoke Diver Association, $795. Lesso, 1033, $240. Moore's Auto Repair Service, Inc., $190. Tyler Technologies, $6,267.02. And Dogwood Hills Tree Farm, $35,964.70. For a total from the Riverboat, once again, of $45,891.26. From the Boyd Development Fund, Corporate Payment Systems, $41.88. Primera Engineers Limited, $7,640.45. So the total from the Boyd Development Fund was $7,682.33. Once again, for a total docket between the two accounts there, $53,573.59. And that concludes tonight's Finance Committee report.
Thank you, Councilman. The claims dockets are as follows. From Fund 2042 Riverboat, the claims were $45,891.26. If you're following along in the agenda, that would not reflect the addition of the $35,964.70 that was added at the Finance Committee to cover Dogwood Hills Tree Farm for the purchase of trees by the city forester. From Fund 2031 Board Development, the total is $7,682.33. I'd like to call for a motion to approve the claims.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Paul Presbyliski to approve the claims and second by Councilman Simmons. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Reports of special or select committees. None. Reports of other city officers and departments. We have Chief Craig Krivak and Deputy Chief, Kyle Kazmazak from Michigan City Fire Department recognition of following promotions. Please come forward. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. We just want to take a moment to introduce ourselves, my administrative staff, and then we do have a badge pinning ceremony that we'd like to present in front of the council and the public. Members of my staff is Deputy Chief Kyle Kazmazak, Training Officer Drew Blue, and Fire Marshal Jeff Bruder. I'm going to turn it over to Kyle so we can get the badge pinning started.
Mr. President, council members, good evening. It is my distinct pleasure to be standing before you tonight to recognize 6 of the hardest working firefighters in Northwest Indiana. Tonight, we're going to have a badge pinning ceremony. In order for these individuals to get promotions within the Michigan City Fire Department, they must first work a time and grade. They must get years of service to sit for a test, and then by merit ordinance, they take a written test, and their years of service and past performance evaluations all get grouped together, and they have an overall grade. Then they're placed on the list, and obviously the highest score is placed first, and when merit openings happen, these individuals are then promoted by their rank and file on that list. So without further ado, tonight's first recipient was hired on April 7th of 1998. He was promoted to engineer in August of 2005, promoted to lieutenant in June of 2012, and he was promoted to captain January 2nd of 2020. This individual his knowledge is very vast. He can be one heck of a great role model. He served as fire marshal and public information officer under another administration, and his attributes don't stop here in Michigan City, as he, on an annual basis, gets onto the medical staff down in one of NASCAR's largest races in Indianapolis at the Brickyard 400. He doesn't also just serve the citizens of the city of Michigan City, but he also is a deputy coroner for LaPorte County. Tonight, receiving his captain's badge, collar bars, certificate of promotion, is Captain Mark Baker. Before I move out of the way for photos, one last thing, pinning his badge tonight is a significant other, Kim.
Hold on.
So these next two individuals share a common bond. In the fire service, we use a word called brotherhood. And these two are definitely a living, breathing example of what it takes to be a brotherhood. The rumors are true. On an annual basis, these two get together on their hire date, and some of the parties have gone unmentioned for numerous reasons. I can only imagine of what their party is going to be like when they celebrate their promotional date together, as they both are getting promoted to officers on January 2nd of 2020. Our first recipient, he needs no introduction. I will tell you with 100% certainty, you cannot get through any store or any grocery store anywhere in the city of Michigan City without hearing Coach Khalifa and having some come running up and give him the biggest hug. He's the most positive individual I've seen both inside and out, and I can tell you he does not like any negativity and any bad juju whatsoever, as he would say. Darren Scott Khalifa was hired on March 3rd of 2003. He was promoted to engineer February 2016, and like I stated before, he's being promoted to captain in January 2nd in 2020. He served as training officer in the previous administration, and it is with, again, a great pleasure of mine that pinning his badge tonight is one of our newest hires, his son, Logan Khalifa. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Scott Khalifa.
Oh, good hands. Stab him. Right in the t-shirt.
One more side note, these two are both graduates of the only high school in Michigan City and are recognized. That would be the Michigan City Elson Red Devils, by the way. Just saying. As stated before, I cannot say enough positive things about this individual. Not only because he stood up for me at my wedding, which he's probably regretting right now, but when you look for attributes, characteristics of a good officer, there'll be no more than this individual right behind me. On a call in December 2015, fire came in to an address what was very familiar to Mike Yashneski. He was an engineer at that time. Something particular came about that, and he didn't know until he pulled up. When others are running out, we run in. But on this particular call, it was his brother-in-law's house. And his brother-in-law was inside with his young child, trying to save his young child and his wife from getting out of there. And I will tell you that constant professional that Mike Yashneski is, he didn't waver, he didn't falter, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. At that time, he was an engineer, and an engineer places the vehicle, gets the vehicle in service and ready, delivers water to those going inside, and didn't sidestep at all. Stayed constant. I'm here to tell you that that is the way he's been from day one, and that's the way that he will continue as an officer. Hired in March 3rd of 2003, promoted to engineer on February 22nd of 2012, and again promoted to lieutenant on January 2nd, 2020. He'll be receiving his lieutenant's collar bars, badge, and certificate of promotion. Pinning his badge tonight is his wife, Katie Yashneski. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Mike Yashneski. I'm always reserved bringing a significant up here to pin a badge. Our next individual being recognized tonight is one of our younger firefighters. All truth be told, He wanted to be a police officer. We are seriously glad we grabbed him from the reins of that and made him and showed him the correct direction in which to go. And I know Chief Ashley's in attendance, so I may or may not be at work tomorrow. Engineer Lemon Kelly is a silent assassin, is what we call him. You don't hear anything from him, but when things need to be done, he's the first one you go to. He seriously has that it factor. He doesn't need to be told what to do. He knows exactly what to do, and he's typically 1 or 2 steps ahead of you, which makes it very scary for an officer. Let's face it, we all have a dissipation light, and ours up here, Craig and myself, are somewhat going out. And knowing that we have Lemon Kelly in the background taking it over, I know that our department's going to be left in great hands. Lemon Kelly was hired on August 16th of 2013. He's again promoted to engineer on January 2nd, 2020. Pinning his badge tonight is his daughter, Ava Kelly. Ladies and gentlemen, Engineer Lemon Kelly. If there's any Cubs fans in this attendance, this young man is probably the closest thing you'll have to Johnny Woo. Every now and again, as an officer, you start to get scared and get nervous because in the background all you hear is this individual go, "Woo!" I don't know where he gets it. I don't know why he does it. But we again, just like Captain Kalitha, this individual has a positive attitude from the moment that he pulls into the parking lot to the time he leaves. One hell of a mentor, excuse my language, but that's all I can say. He's one heck of a mentor. He knows exactly where he's going. We never have to question any of his skills. Again, his positive attitude and attributes go without saying. More recently, I asked Matt Miller to take on a huge undertaking. I knew exactly who to go to. I said, Matt, I need a book put together of all the streets in the city of Michigan City. Without hesitation, he looked at me and he goes, "You betcha." 2 seconds later, he turned around and he goes, "Am I getting paid for that?" I said, "Yeah, of course you are, Matt." Outside of work, he's what any parent would want as a father and as a husband. He has 3 lovely kids, and I know he takes care of them better than anybody I know. He was hired on April 16th, 2012, promoted to engineer January 2nd, 2020. Pinning his badge tonight is his kids, Jocelyn and Matthew. Ladies and gentlemen, Engineer Matt Miller.
Want to hold her?
Thank you. Good job.
Our last recipient tonight was, again, someone that transferred from another department here, and we are very happy to have him. Engineer William Sante came from Gary Fire Department. He's been on the job since July 29th of 2015. He currently sits as one of our specialists. He's a building and mechanical specialist. When stuff breaks down or engines break down, he's one of our mechanics and building specialists that will fix that. He was hired in July 29th of 2015. He was promoted to engineer January 2nd of 2020. William Sontag has more certifications than are known to man. I actually think he makes them up and brings them in and goes, "Hey, Chief, look what I did." Some of them have a lot of validity. Some of them we're still looking into. But having said that, in all seriousness, he sits as our district task force rope representative. We have a high-angle rescue team here on the Michigan City Fire Department, as well as a dive team. He is our rope rescue coordinator and sits in the District 1 Council, where they're now reinstituting the rope rescue. They had it kind of dismantled. William Sontag was one of those working forces to bring that back. So again, you have some of the most educated, highly qualified individuals on the City of Michigan City Fire Department. Tonight, pinning his badge is his wife, Courtney Sontag. Ladies and gentlemen, Engineer William Sontag. So real quick in closing, and I usually just mic drop it and walk away. Got that from Captain Cleeth. He was like, "Don't ever say anything, just walk away." But these 6 men and the other 80 men and women that we have on this job makes our job up here, the 4 of us, very easy. And we want to come to work. It's a great place to be. And it's because of the dedication, devotion, and like I said, the brotherhood and the commitment and the ownership that they have. If it's not with them, then obviously everything else falters. We are only as good as our strongest and weakest link. But these 6 are some of your strongest ones that you have. So without a shadow of a doubt, like I said, it's my distinct pleasure. I thank all of them for their hard work and dedication and congratulate them. Thank you for your time.
Once again, thank you, Chief, and congratulations to all the newly promoted, and thank you for your service.
Sean?
I'm sorry. One second.
Yeah, before you, gentlemen and family members, before you leave, I want to thank you. It takes a true, dedicated individual to be a public servant, and I thank you.
I think that was one of those drop the mic now. Reports of any other officers or departments?
Hi, Jessica Arnett, City Forester and Vector Control Department Head. I'll try not to take too much of your time, but it was recommended, and I'm excited to give a report from my department tonight. Just give me one moment to make sure all of my technology is working. Hold if I push that button. There it goes.
Mhm.
I was thinking, where do I point it? Does it matter? Okay, fantastic. Thank you so very much. Okay. Good evening, and again, thank you for having me. I wanted to take this opportunity to do a couple of things. First, to introduce myself a little bit to the new members, and also take a little bit of time to talk about my department, some of our goals that we have, and some pretty amazing things that trees can do for us here in Michigan City. I forgot I have this thing. Okay. So my name is Dr. Jessica Arnett, and I'm the City Forester and the Vector Control Department head. I hold a PhD from the University of Minnesota in legal history, where my research examined the development of territorial, federal, and corporate law in the context of contests over land ownership, land use, and access to natural resources in territorial Alaska, specifically the Tongass National Forest in southeast Alaska. I also have an employment background in property management, parks and recreation, and parks advocacy. It is with this employment and educational background that after a thorough vetting, the International Society of Arboriculture granted my eligibility to sit for the ISA Certified Arborist exam, which I passed in December, obtaining my credentials as a certified arborist. One of the things that I find interesting, and I just wanted to take a moment to share with you all tonight as well, are the ways in which our personal lives and convictions influence our career pathways and the way that we approach our professional responsibilities. Having grown up in Alaska with the Chugach National Forest as my playground, I am also a lifelong outdoorswoman. Primarily a trail ultramarathoner, I arguably spend more time in forests and with trees and my dogs than I do with people. I am also fortunate enough to have a stepfather who spent his career in the National Park Service, a legacy that culminated in his appointment as superintendent of Denali National Park, a position he held until his retirement in 2012. That's him. He's not in uniform in that picture, but he's standing next to Barack Obama the year of his retirement from Denali. I chose that picture because there's not many pictures where he's smiling that big. But Paul's expertise shaped my research and my career pathways, ultimately fostering my passion for parks, forests, and green spaces, and instilling a greater sense of responsibility in terms of ensuring the survival of these places in perpetuity. My passion for forests, both urban and non, has informed my research, my professional life, and my personal pursuits, goals, and achievements. That passion is also what is bringing me here before you tonight. And I'd like to spend a little time talking to you about trees in general and then a little bit of time about Michigan City's urban forest. Trees have environmental benefits. There's no newsflash there, right? This is what we typically learn about trees from elementary school on. Unfortunately, though, it's all too often the only thing we learn about trees. We know that they reduce CO2 and produce oxygen through photosynthesis. They're really, really good at it. And while these environmental benefits of trees are nothing to sneeze at, it's really a small fraction of the broad range of services that trees provide for us. For example, a tree can intercept and process up to 85% of the airborne particulates that blow through its canopy. This directly contributes to a municipality's ability to comply with national air quality standards. They do a lot more than that. Additionally, trees are the real pros when it comes to reducing the costs incurred by municipalities in regulating stormwater runoff. IDEM Rule 13 is an unfunded federal mandate that requires municipalities to undertake measures to reduce pollutants in stormwater. Cities, including ours, spend significant money to maintain compliance with this mandate. Trees will do it for free, and sometimes they can be just as or more effective than other methods. They do this through four really important processes. First is transpiration, the process by which roots absorb water, which is transported up through the tree's vascular system and released through the leaves as water vapor. One large tree uses up to 50 gallons of water a day just to maintain its biological processes. Trees also intercept rainfall, preventing or delaying its entry into the soil. There's static interception, which is rain that accumulates on the leaves or needles of trees and evaporates before it ever reaches the ground. There are studies that demonstrate that this static interception, one tree can catch as much as 32 gallons of water in a rain event. There's also dynamic interception, which is water that lands on the leaves and on the needles and then falls later after the rain event to the ground, slowing the infiltration and saturation of the soil, preventing flooding and runoff. There are studies that demonstrate that this dynamic interception can be upwards of 132 gallons per tree. Trees also aid in the ability of soil to store, delay, and filter water. Urban soils tend to be very compacted due to the nature of construction in an urban environment. But tree roots can sometimes penetrate that compacted soil, relieving that compaction and allowing soils to resume their natural filtration and storage function. Studies have found that infiltration under tree canopies are greater by 69 to 354% than areas without trees. Finally, trees' natural biological processes of absorbing water and nutrients from the soil and converting them into usable substances for the tree actually break down harmful chemicals such as fuels, reducing their toxicity. These are some of the many ways that trees help us comply with these unfunded federal mandates. They do a lot more than that, though. Studies indicate that for every dollar invested in tree planting and maintenance, there is the potential to produce up to a 500% return. That might seem abstract, so I wanted to break it down to a smaller scale. A house with shade trees can save up to 20 to 25% of cooling costs during summer months. For residents, that may be as much as $20 a month off of their electric bills. This is due to shade, of course, but it's also due to the ability of trees to reduce the ambient air temperature by 6 to 8% on average. This is because of that transpiration process, the process by which water absorbed in the roots transports through the vascular system and is evaporated through the leaves, has the cooling power, or can have the cooling power, of 10 residential room-sized air conditioners running for 20 hours a day. Conversely, deciduous trees that lose their leaves in winter allow sun to penetrate and provide important windbreaking functions as well to reduce heating costs. Trees also impact property values. It's been demonstrated that residential properties with trees sell for 3.5% to 5% more than properties without trees, and have the potential to increase home values by up to 15%. That figure jumps to 25% if you live on a street that is tree-lined. There are also a number of social benefits to trees. Trees have been correlated to lower crime rates, have been proven to reduce stress and the effects of stress in the form of lower blood pressure and slower heart rates. They improve self-esteem and concentration in youth while increasing physical activity. They also absorb and block noise pollution, and anyone that lives near the train can probably appreciate that. Trees are also issues of social justice. Recent studies have demonstrated that urban tree canopy cover correlates alarmingly with income, and in many cases with race as well. If someone shows you a map of tree canopy in virtually any city in America, you're likely looking at a map of income, and you're likely looking at a map of race. That's due to many urban areas lacking tree canopy cover tend to be in historically redlined districts and neighborhoods. And now I want to turn, with all this in mind, just to Michigan City's urban canopy for just a moment. Data collected in 2016 by the Chicago Region Tree Initiative revealed an urban forest in Michigan City in desperate need of restoration through preservation of existing tree canopy and an aggressive planting schedule. In 2016, our canopy had declined to 23%, and now in 2020, I'm worried that further study this spring will demonstrate that that canopy number has reduced even further. The trend for restoring our urban tree canopy is equally as bleak. I reviewed the data from our Tree City USA applications going back 5 years. Michigan City has been a tree city for 20 years now, I think. However, the manner in which we've qualified for that designation in the preceding years is troubling. To become a tree city or to maintain that designation, there's a number of qualifications, but one of them is that you have to have a per capita expenditure on tree care of $2 or more. We regularly exceed that amount. I think our per capita this year was $7 or $9. But our expenditures, surprisingly, are not on the installation of new trees and not so much on the maintenance of the trees that we have. We qualify as a Tree City USA because we spend money pulling them out of the ground. In the last 5 years, according to our Tree City USA applications, we have removed nearly 700 trees and only planted 123. I'm looking to reverse this trend. There's a number of reasons for this. Part of the reason for our loss of trees is the condition of our existing canopy. A number of our street trees primarily are aging, lacking in diversity, and of poor quality and health. The majority of our street trees around town are silver maples, which were extremely popular for landscaping in the 70s and 80s because they grow quite quickly. But because they grow quite quickly, they've also come to be known for having poor form, weak wood, and poor ability to compartmentalize decay, which is a key biological process of trees in ensuring their longevity. Additionally, a lack of early maintenance has resulted in many of them developing unstable stem and branch structures. For example, the tree pictured is exhibiting what's referred to as codominance, a condition in which a stem or branch grows to a size near equal that of the parent stem or the central leader. In these situations, the attachment of the codominant stem or branch is typically much less stable and may have what's known as included bark, a condition that can often lead to failure. As you can imagine, in an urban setting, this represents a considerable hazard. And in response, measures are taken to remediate these hazards, but often needlessly shorten the life of the tree or weaken its capacity to provide much needed benefits, right at the point in its life where it would be primed to produce the maximum benefits that it can in its lifetime. We also have a number of our maturing trees that are not planted in the right place. The golden rule of thumb in urban forestry is right tree, right place. And for some reason we haven't learned to not plant them under power lines. But a number of our maturing trees, they need to be pruned away from power lines and other structures. And this too reduces their vitality and their longevity and contributes to the decline of our urban canopy. What I hope is that we can move forward working together to devise a strategy in which we all do work together, elected officials, citizens, businesses, developers, in devising a plan that can help us reverse this trend. Hopefully we can continue to plant new trees. Hopefully we can maintain and protect the trees that we have. And one of my main goals going forward this year is to have a robust outreach and education program just to demonstrate how amazing trees really are. If you'd like more information or to look at a list of the scientific sources for my presentation, Chicago Region Trees Initiative, The Scientific Benefit of Trees, a literature review is a great place to start. And of course I can answer any questions. If you'd like to delve any deeper, and I suggest you do, there's a really excellent TED Talk by Dr. Suzanne Simard, How Trees Talk to Each Other. Just more amazing things that trees do that many times we're not aware of. Anyways, thank you very much. And any questions or comments I'll be happy to answer either now or in the future. Thank you.
Councilwoman Deitch.
Thank you for that presentation. Can you send that to us along with the TED Talk information?
Absolutely.
Just send it to us in email. Thank you.
Councilman Paul Grzybinski.
I have a question on the comment that you made about if you could expand on your red line district neighborhoods.
Sure.
I have an idea what that is.
Oh, okay, yes. I'll be brief. So redlining was a practice by which communities of color were excluded from particular neighborhoods it's been a historical process since, well, for a really long time, but was predominantly a technique used, ever since emancipation, if you will, but predominantly 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s as cities expanded, subdivisions were built. Historically, there were laws called redlining laws or covenants that were included in deeds to property or property law that would exclude communities of color from living in particular neighborhoods. And it's the neighborhoods in which communities of color were thus funneled into that tend to be lacking in tree canopy cover.
Have you identified any of those districts in Michigan City per se?
No, I haven't looked that far yet, but I'm hoping.
Well, I just want to get into this because you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but I will say this: in the city of Michigan City, I think that maybe it would be better if you say the subsequent poor poor neighborhoods in town have been ignored, and I think that would be more to the truth of the matter. But also, since this inception of Tree City USA, you showed a lot of these trees on the utility line areas. Those things were planted before I believe Tree City USA even existed. But with that being said, there's things in the ordinance that need to be changed so that more trees can be planted concerning like utility areas, because we have a provision in the ordinance that says no tree can be planted around a utility line. And I think that if it's not a main source of power, that we should revisit the ordinance and make it better so it works better for the city. And like when the city does a development on a street, that they put a minor thing, street light power lines in the ground, because they're low current and they can be buried. And you can create a whole canopy on a easement green space for that. So I just want to put that out there because I think the ordinance needs to be revisited. I appreciate your comments, and it's staggering the amount of trees that have been cut down. But Jessica, is it all right if I call you Jessica?
I prefer either Ms. Arnett or Dr. Arnett.
Okay, Ms. Arnett.
In an official forum, thank you.
Dr. Arnett, thank you. I got enlightened on this problem when they kept cutting trees down, and I went to a tree board meeting and found out that the tree board hadn't been funded for 3 years. 3 years. So and two, I think that there was a total gap in non-caring on getting this thing rolling and keeping trees in the city easements. But that being said, I also enjoy trees, and I've participated in tree plantings in different scout camps, and seen firsthand the actual cutting down of what would you call the species of trees that are
invasive?
Yeah, I guess you could say invasive. But then within 2 years, a whole camp coming back with the replant, and it's amazing. But I just wanted to put that out there because I think that sometimes when you have legislation on the table, people take a wrong opinion of you. But I appreciate what you're doing, and I think that I looked at that list, and that's a nice list that's been developed. Some I think could have been a little bit bigger, but if that's what the guy has, and I hope that we go further on developing that Adopt-A-Tree program that we've talked about. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Prespolinski.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Arnett, appreciate your presentation this evening, and I know we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Yes, we do.
And I stand behind you 100%. We've talked, about what your plans are, and I think they're exciting. And I think as we get more and more of the public involved and educated, and if there is a tree by chance planted on the city easement in front of your home, that you take city pride in maintaining that tree, watering the tree, and trying to get that tree moving along so that it does survive. Because I can recall, and we talked about it on Washington Street, When I first got into office, we planted new trees, we planted sod, and I know that there were other issues in that area with the soil and things like that. But it all comes back to, in the city watered the sod, the city watered the trees for a whole year. The sanitary district did that. Once they stopped doing it, then some of the residents that lived on that street, they didn't care about the trees, they didn't care about the lawn, and it just went back into disrepair. So the city can do all we can do and spend funding on it, but the citizens have to step up and take care of these trees also if they want, and also take care of their easements or what have you, if they want the city to look nice. It's not all about the city taking part in it, it's the citizenry getting involved and taking pride in their neighborhood. So keep up the good work and we're gonna make it happen.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilman Mack?
Thank you, Dr. Arnett, for that educated, studied, and data-driven presentation. I really appreciate that. It took me back to my college days at Adrian, where I had a professor who enlightened us so much. I still carry some of the things that he taught us back then. We used to have to, we found double-headed frogs and things like that. I mean, he was really serious and passionate about it. And I guess my point being that anyone that drives this type of knowledge that you do, you're going to get more people, young people especially, and people that really don't know as much about that to be involved. So an overarching mission to educate us and get more people understanding of the importance of trees and the ecosystem is very important. You've got I'm the liaison to the Sustainability Committee,
Yes.
so I am looking forward to working with you. I grew up in the woods by Memorial Park. So I believe in everything you're saying, and I'm looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm looking forward to working with you as well.
Councilman Dabney?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation, Dr. Arnett. But, you know, we've actually done something to move in the direction. We passed the ordinance where people will cut down trees to develop property. They have to do a tree survey. And I believe it's anything that's over 8 inches in diameter. They have to replace those trees to bring those back into the tree canopy. So that should help. So the city is moving forward with that. So hopefully, you know, we see some big results with, you know, with that ordinance coming into play.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Well, thank you, Dr. Arnett. I appreciate it. Learned a little bit about you today. See, you're definitely well educated, and I didn't realize you were from Alaska. I was just curious, what brought you to Michigan City?
Oh, a number of things. After I did a master's at NYU, and after that came to Evansville and taught as an adjunct professor at University of Southern Indiana. And it was there that I applied for and was accepted to University of Minnesota for my PhD. But by that time, I had met my now husband, and he's in Michigan City, as most of you know. So.
Love will do it. Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Well, thank you.
Any other reports of officers or departments? Okay. Ms. Nyla, petitions,
There are no petitions.
communications,
Correspondence received in the clerk's office on January 21st and 27th from DLZ. Their weekly activity reports, ESG energy projects. Correspondence was received on January 27th from DLZ. Their field observation visit, ESG energy project, solar system inspection in Michigan City Police Department. Correspondence was received in the clerk's office on the 30th from the NAACP president, Wes Scully, regarding the reappointment of Ms. LaTanya Troutman to the Commission of Social Status of African American Males. Correspondence was also received on the 29th from Ms. Tatanisha George from the Human Rights Director, reappointing Pastor Dennis Carroll to the Social Status of African American Males Commission by the Human Rights Commission Board. Correspondence was received on January 24th from Catherine Yoder regarding the South Shore Clean Cities annual conference on Tuesday, February 25th, 2020 at Blue Chip Event Center. And Also, we received on January 24th from Attorney Meyer, 2020 report of the 2019 Michigan City Economic Development Corporation regarding the 15% imposed fees, which was $15,059.62 from anyone receiving tax abatements during 2019.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. On resolutions, our first resolution, is it possible to have it read in its entirety?
If you would like.
I don't know if you have it in front of you. That's fine.
Would you like me to read it?
Please.
A resolution by title, well, in its entirety, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Michigan City, Indiana, honoring the League of Women Voters on the 100th anniversary of their founding. Whereas the women's suffrage movement was organized in 1848 at the Seneca Falls Convention in New York State, and over the next 72 years, many women dedicated their very lives to the cause. And whereas on June 4th, 1919, the assembled Congress of the United States of America passed the 19th Amendment to the Constitution prohibiting states and the federal government from denying the right to vote to citizens of the United States on the basis of sex, and submitted to the states for ratification. And whereas the 19th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified by the last of the then necessary 36 states on August 18, 1920, and was officially adopted on August 26 in the year 1920. And whereas the League of Women Voters were organized on February 14, 1920, to educate and engage these newly enfranchised women. And whereas in the past 100 years, through the actions of and with support of the League of Women Voters, women have made significant contributions to government and real-life issues affected by government. And whereas the League of Women Voters has promoted participation by informed citizens at all levels of the government and has helped shape public policy. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Michigan City, Indiana, honors the League of Women Voters on the 100th anniversary of their founding. And this is introduced by Ms. Deitch, Mr. Fitzpatrick, Ms. Tillman, and Mr. Przebalinski is going to offer his co-sponsor this evening.
Yeah, Mr. President, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor
Okay.
to this resolution, please.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Does the author have anything to add at this time?
Yes. First, I would like to thank Joanne Inquist for reaching out to me. I acknowledged her this past weekend. She wasn't there, but she has done a lot for the City of Michigan City and the League of Women Voters, and as a staunch advocate for civil rights. First of all, I just want to applaud her because I know she'll have some comments from the League of Women Voters, but I think it's important as we move through the year and as we honor this, that we're also going to be honoring the 100-year anniversary next year for Michigan City League of Women Voters as well. So again, I think this is an awesome recognition. 100 years goes by quick, it seems like, as we're moving through things, but we're still fighting the fight. So I just think it's important that we do that and participate in any events that go on for the rest of this year.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Are there any public comments on this resolution?
Yes, good evening. How's everybody? It's good to be back. I haven't been here for a while. And I certainly want to thank all of you for taking this this proposal on. Excuse me.
Can you please state your name and address for the record, please?
I do that all the time, sorry. Joanne Anquist. I live at 3001 Maple Street in Michigan City. And I'm here tonight as the president of the League of Women Voters of LaPorte County. This is a very exciting year for women. And I hope you noticed as you were reading this tonight that the date that the League began was actually before the 19th Amendment. after over 70 years of fighting for their independence and the right to vote, our foremothers, the suffragettes, decided that they needed to be prepared. And so they didn't wait for the final decision on the 19th Amendment. They went ahead and formed the League of Women Voters so that they would be better educated, so that they would be prepared to vote. And that whole decision about what to do with the organization has perpetuated through the years. And of course, that's our goal. Our goal is to educate the public. Yes, we are a political organization, but we are nonpartisan, and I believe that is our strength. We never support a candidate, but we also support all candidates to be able to vocalize and to be able to deal with the public and to be able to tell them and interact with them about how they feel about certain issues. So we're going to be continuing that. We will be back. You'll see us more this year because in August we'll be celebrating the 19th Amendment. And next year, as Councilwoman Nelson Deitch has pointed out, that next year that we'll be celebrating our 100th year in LaPorte County. Originally, it was the League of Women Voters of Michigan City. And I think it's pretty amazing that just 1 year after the original ratification, just 1 year after Michigan City came in as a league. So I think that's pretty astounding. As I said, I'll be back and we'll be able to talk about that, but I do appreciate everything you've done so far. And we are really excited about this year. We'll be celebrating, not on the 14th, but actually, thank you. Not on the 14th, but actually Tuesday the 12th. Some of you know that once a month we have an open meeting to the public. Sometimes it's a luncheon, sometimes it's a dinner, but it's in Michigan City and it's at Patrick's, and it's always the second Tuesday of the month, and we will be celebrating our birthday that month, and that day rather, and you are certainly all invited to come. It's very informal, and we will have a park service woman there, actually, one that my husband had hired in the National Park Service here, and she is now a member of the league, and she will be presenting on the various organizations, the various sites, the various national sites throughout the United States, and what they'll be doing to celebrate this wonderful event. Again, thank you so much. Good seeing all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Enquist. Any further public comments on this resolution? Are there any further comments on this resolution? Any council comments? Councilman Preslinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, I would like to congratulate the League of Women Voters for their 100th anniversary this year. And Mrs. Enquist, I want to thank you for everything you've done for the League of Women Voters here in Michigan City, and everything that you and the League has done for candidates that are running for public office, whether it's Republican or Democrat, because you said it's nonpartisan. And it gives the candidates the opportunity, and it gives the public the opportunity to know and get to know a little bit more about the candidates and what they're about. And your forum, to me, is the best run forum that we attend as candidates. So I want to thank you for that. And thank you for all your hard work and effort in making sure the candidates get their questionnaires back to you on a timely basis. Yeah. Because I've gotten a few of those phone calls, but I try to be on time, though. But again, thank you very much, and congratulations to the League of Women Voters.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Deitch.
I move to adopt.
Support. We have a motion to adopt by Councilwoman Deitch and a second by Councilman Dabney. Are there any further comments? If there are no other objections, I call for a vote.
Are you doing a roll call? Don't we know?
No. If there are no objections. Did you have a comment?
No.
Okay. If there are no objections, we can all accept this by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. That motion carries. I mean, it's approved. Thank you. And congratulations to the league. I know with this past year, me being a liaison to the Women's Commission, I've learned a lot about the suffrage movement and working with Ms. Enquist and the rest of the women. So I was anticipating all the year's events and stuff going on. So, and I'm still the liaison, so I'll be around. So thank you. Ms. Nyla, our second resolution on first reading. By title only.
A resolution by title only, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Michigan City, Indiana, in commemorating Charles R. Westcott. And this is introduced by Ms. Deitch and co-sponsored by Mr. Simmons and Mr. Mack.
And Mr. President, I'd like to also be added as a co-sponsor.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman. Ms. Nyla, can you add Councilman Prespolinski as a co-sponsor?
Yes.
Does Arthur have anything?
Mr. President, I'd also
Yes,
like to be
sir.
added as a co-sponsor.
Councilman Dabney would also like to be added as a co-sponsor. Any others? Is there any comments from the author?
Yes. So I went into the office today because I left off one important thing about Mr. Westcott, about his military service. So I would like to move to amend to add a whereas clause that I already submitted in writing to the clerk's office. Oh, here it is. Whereas, and this is after he was the first Michigan City Human Rights Commission's Humanitarian of the Year, and whereas he served as a member of the United States Coast Guard in World War II. That is the amendment to add, whereas he served as a member of the United States Coast Guard in World War II. That was an oversight on my part. So I make that motion.
Support. Thank you, Councilwoman. We have a motion to add an amendment by Councilwoman Deitch and a second by Councilman Dabney. Are there any public comment on the amendment? Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on the amendment? Any council comments on the amendment? If there are no objections, I'd call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, the amendment is approved. Where do we have any public comment on this? Or did you have any further comment as the author?
Yes. Now that we've approved that, I would like to read it in its entirety, if that is okay, for the public, so that we can have it for the record.
Go ahead, yes.
All right. A resolution of the Common Council of the City of Michigan City, Indiana, commemorating Charles R. Westcott, whereas Charles R. Westcott was Executive Director of the Elite Youth Center for a period that encompassed all or parts of 5 decades, where he worked tirelessly to improve the quality of life of Michigan City citizens, especially the youth, and we celebrate the monumental difference he made in so many lives. And whereas we celebrate the life lessons he taught, the inspiration and encouragement he provided, the unconditional friendship he shared, and the love he always demonstrated to the people of Michigan City. And whereas he was one of the founders of the IC Baseball League, coached basketball at Quinnipiac Saints, and coached and mentored hundreds of local youth. And whereas he provided guidance, etiquette, and manners to young men and women by exposing them to opportunities, including even visits to the Indiana State Prison to show them where they did not want to be. And whereas he was the first Michigan City Human Rights Commission's Humanitarian of the Year, And whereas he served as a member of the United States Coast Guard in World War II. Whereas he served on numerous boards, including Youth Service Bureau, Michigan City Scholarship Foundation, Memorial Hospital, and King S. Jones Scholarship Foundation. And whereas he received numerous awards, including the Bar Association's Liberty Bell Award, JC's Merit Award, Essence Rare's Community Award, Essence Red Devil Hall of Fame inductee, and Catholic Youth Organization's Father Mooney Award. And whereas in his honor, the Charles Westcott Park, located at the site of the Elite Youth Center, and the Michigan City Boys and Girls Club bear his name for his tireless efforts to keep the youth off the street and focus on education and job preparation. And now, therefore, it be resolved that the Common Council of the City of Michigan City, Indiana, recognizes and honors Charles R. Westcott for the legacy he left and monumental difference he made to so many people, especially the youth of Michigan City, and we commemorate the marking of his 100th birthday with this resolution for his commitment and service to the Michigan City community, introduced by myself, co-sponsored by Gene Simmons, Michael Mack, Brian Dabney, and Don Prisbalinski. And I just wanted to add, too, that I met with his granddaughter the week before last, and she gave me a few tidbits and highlights of some of the things that she remembered about her grandfather. And also, I would like to thank our local resident historian, Alan Williams, for providing me so much information about Mr. Westcott, and just being very humbled to hear some of the things that he shared, and also appreciate that the mayor is working on a proclamation for his birthday, which is on February 15th. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Is there any public comment on this resolution?
Wayne Perry, Mayor, Michigan City. I would like to commend the council in advance for passing this resolution, which I know you will. I'm certain that there is not a person in this room who does not remember Charles Westcott and the things that he did for this town. He was a pillar of the community. He was a pioneer in community relations. He was a marvelous person. So thank you for passing this resolution.
Thank you. Any further public comment on this resolution? Any council comment on this resolution? Councilman President.
I would like to ask the chair if, and Councilwoman Deitch, if it would be appropriate to have this done in a formal resolution format with all the council members' name on it. Would you, okay, I would like to make that as an additional motion to amend this ordinance for everybody to make it in a formal proclamation format and with all the council members' names on it to be presented as such. And I want to speak to that amendment after I get support.
There's a motion.
Okay.
There's a motion to add everyone as a sponsor to this resolution. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Paul Prespolinski and a second by Councilwoman Tillman and Councilwoman Don Prespolinski. All those in favor of this amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Now can I speak to my thoughts?
Yes,
on this?
Councilman.
The reason I made that amendment is because of this. I think it's formally becoming to have this in front of us in February. And the reason being is that, as the mayor alluded to, Mr. Westcott, he was a prime figure, because I remember Coach Westcott when we would play the Eli Youth Center, and also his civility and his working for community relations in our community, to have everyone together as the true place that we live in, the melting pot. And, you know, I can still picture him, you know, because he wasn't, when he was coaching, he was very intense, all right, when he was on that, when he was out there doing his job. But I got to tell you that this is really a great thing to show people in Michigan City that we are a melting pot and that we need to work together and we need to be civil. And there are no divides. Michigan City is a great city. I hear a lot of smack at work about Michigan City. And I tell them, say, you don't know anything about Michigan City. You don't know how people work in our neighborhoods. And I tell them about stories from when I was a younger man, I'll say adolescent. Not to take anything away from this resolution, but to speak of our city. When I was a paper boy, we had a black family living on Charles Street, the nicest people you ever wanted to meet. And when it was bitter cold, Mrs. Anderson would always have a cup of hot chocolate for me. And I still remember that to this day, and that's what we need to promote in our community. Thank you. And let's bring back good memories, Councilwoman Deitch. That's good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank
Councilman
you.
Sims.
Yes, I would just like to say I was one of Charles Westcott's kids. He was my brother O'Neill and I surrogate father down at Eli Youth Center from tiny tots through high school. You could always count on Wes being there for you. As we call him, Wes, we refer to him as Wes. It was through his teachings that we both became Michigan City Red Devils, and I might add, we excelled. We are the men who we are today because of his teaching and guidance, as well as our parents and church. Charlie's teaching lives on through all of his kids. Keep the dream alive, kids first.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further council comments? Councilman Davis.
Just a quick thought came through my head. If we're gonna have something that we're gonna sign and probably frame, my thoughts would have been to hang this in the Eli Youth Center, which is no longer there. I'd like to reach out to the family. I know the family. Is if they would want that, or if we could possibly hang that in City Hall. I think it is appropriate to have that hanging in City Hall if the family would allow that. And I will reach out to them and ask.
I met with the granddaughter just to follow up. We're having a celebration on his birthday at the Michigan City Boys and Girls Club, which is named after him. And I know that I'm working with Mr. Bila to get some things hung there. And we're doing a formal proclamation, and the mayor's working on that. That's going to be presented at that event. So I know that that's an opportunity for us to maybe get copy for here and a copy for there, but we've already worked on it and we've already spoke to the family as well.
Any further council comment? Councilman Prespolinski.
Yeah, Mr. President, a few things that I remember about Mr. Westcott, and the reason I wanted to be a co-sponsor is I didn't have the opportunity to play for him, but I did have the opportunity to play against some of his teams. I went to St. Stan's grade school, and on an annual basis, St. Stan's and Eli Youth Center always used to play each other. Sometimes down in our little bitty gym, and maybe sometimes at Eli, I don't know. But it was always a great game. And one thing about Mr. Westcott that I remember about him, and he was always a gentleman. He was a pillar of the community. He was a class act, and the gentleman always had a smile on his face whenever I saw him. Now, it may not be in the locker room. Mr. Simmons might be able to allude to that if he had a smile on his face or not. But, I mean, whenever I saw him, he was always a nice smile on his face and a real gentleman, and did a lot for the city of Michigan City. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Mack.
And just to follow up on what Mr. Paul Przybylski said, his actions, he was quite a bit older than me, so a lot of the guys, as a Red Devil myself, I didn't actually deal with Mr. Westcott, but my heroes from my playing days were Mr. Simmons and my uncle Charlie Mack. And one person can make a difference in a community. Everything I've heard about Mr. Westcott through the guys who taught me how to play and become a Red Devil and the person I am right now, talked about Westcott at the highest. One person can make a difference. And Michigan City as a community has a history of a lot of great people making a difference like that. So I'm happy to support this also.
Thank you, Councilman Mack. Any further council comment? Is there a motion to adopt? We have a motion by Councilman Paul Przybylski and second by Councilwoman Deitch. All in favor of approving this, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Didn't think so. Thank you. Motion is adopted. The resolution is adopted. It's not about third resolution.
Mr. President?
I was just
If you
going
would
to say,
just allow me to speak, please. One word. Considering Councilman Dabney's request that a document be hung in City Hall, consider it done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. President?
Yes, Councilman.
I'd like to pull this off the table at this time.
Wait.
I want to develop some more information on this before I bring it to the council.
Okay. Do we still need to read it as it was stated, or does anyone else want to pick up sponsorship?
Paul wants to pull the ordinance. We haven't got that far yet. Yeah, the resolution. He wants to pull it. We need to read it first.
He can withdraw it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Do you want me to read it, put it in the record? Yes.
Yeah, you should read it.
Yeah.
By title only. And then
Okay. Ms. Nyla, yeah. Can you, our third resolution on first reading by title only without objection.
Okay, a resolution by title only requesting the Michigan City Plan Commission review and consider repealing section 17.02 in the Michigan City Zoning Code entitled Landscaping Requirements. And this is introduced by Mr. Przybylski.
And as Councilman Przybylski has stated, he wants to pull his sponsorship. We don't have any further action.
I'm not pulling my sponsorship. I'm pulling
withdrawing
out. I want to remove it from the table at this time to develop more facts. I plan on bringing it back.
I recommend move the table.
Yeah.
You can't.
You can't, you have to,
You either have to move the table it, or you can make a motion to postpone it, but it's the same thing. It's filed with the council, now it's a council matter. It's not a sponsor matter.
Okay, I'll amend my previous request. I would like to make a motion to table for 3 meetings, which will be in February, March, the first meeting in March.
Okay.
No, February, no, the second meeting in March.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to table this
Support.
by Councilman Paul Przybylski and seconded by Councilwoman Deitch. If there are no objections, I call for a motion to, call for a vote. And all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, thank you. All opposed? Same thing, thank you. Okay, our first ordinance on first reading by title only without objection.
an ordinance on first reading by title only, amending a municipal code section 2-57B to said section regarding council sponsorship of an ordinance or resolution. And this is also introduced by Mr. Paul Przybylski.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla.
Mr. President, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor to this.
Ms. Nyla, can you add Mr. Don Przybylski as a co-sponsor? Does the author have anything to add at this time?
No.
Are there any public comment on this ordinance? Is there any public comments on this ordinance? Are there any council comments on this ordinance? Having none, this ordinance will be carried to our next meeting. Ms. Nyla, our first ordinance on third reading by title only without objection.
An ordinance on third reading by title only, amending provisions of municipal code regarding the council rules of order and procedures. And this is introduced by Ms. Deitch and co-sponsored by Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Does the author have anything to add at this time? Is there any public comment on this ordinance? Is there? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Tom Smith, 1710 West 10th Street, Michigan City. I was not here for the last meeting, and I have a question about the time for public comment. Is that still moved to the beginning, or is that move still staying at the place where it is now? Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to make sure it was, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Any further public comment on this ordinance? Any council comment? Councilman Paul, Don Prespolinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to make comments on let me get my train of thought here. Okay, there we go. Under section 1, where we talk about needing to have 1/3 of the council to vote for
2/3, I think is how it
well, you got to have 4 members that want to not vote for the second and third reading at the meeting. According to Mr. Myers, I spoke to him this evening, that's what he said.
2/3 is 6.
Six.
So
Right.
If you want to stop it, you have to have 4.
Okay, all right. So here is my discussion with this, is that I know the information came out, or when the ordinance, and we were discussing this, is that it happened in the past, and apparently Councilwoman Dice didn't like what was going on with the council when she was on the council. But I can tell you, and I'm also speaking to the new council members that are here, and I'm going to give you a little bit of history as far as how many times it's happened in the past 4 years, how many meetings we've had in the last 4 years, how many ordinances have been read and passed in the last 4 years, and exactly what right you will be giving up to just be, to having that vote to say, I do not want to hear, I do not want this ordinance to go on to third reading, or to have second and third reading at the second meeting on it. By giving up that right, I'll just begin with that. By giving up that right, gives up a lot of power that an individual council person has. That, take for example this evening, if we wanted to hear an ordinance on second and third reading, for whatever the reason would be, one council person could say, no, I object, and then that would move on. We'd have second reading tonight, and third reading would be when it's generally scheduled. But what it does is it gives that council person the opportunity, if they still do not feel right about passing this ordinance, and they still want to get some more investigative work done on their own to make them feel, yeah, I want to vote, I want to pass this ordinance. No, I don't want to pass this ordinance. So then, that's the way it stands right now. So then if this ordinance is passed, What that means is that if I wanted something not to go through on second and third reading, and you do not know a lot of times if an ordinance is going to be passed on second and third reading at that meeting, because on our agenda, it's not going to say this ordinance is going to be up for second and third reading tonight. It'll say it could be up for second reading, and then Councilman Dabney could say, well, I'd like to have third reading tonight also. But if another council person doesn't want it, then they can vote for it presently. But now what will happen, if this ordinance is passed, it's going to give up the individual power of a council person whereby they won't have time and they're not going to be able to go and try to lobby to other council people to say, I want second, or I want third reading at the next meeting. I don't want to have second, third reading tonight. So how do you do that? Explain to me how you do that at a council meeting. When an ordinance will come up, you'll say, okay, we're going to have second reading tonight. And then another council person will say, well, we want second and third reading, but if you don't want it to happen, where do you have the time to do that? I can't get up and say, hey, go over and talk to Mr. Simmons and say, could you join me so we don't have second and third reading tonight? Or Councilman Fitzpatrick, will you join me so I can have 3 votes here this evening so we don't have second and third reading? So let me get into a little bit of history about the last 4 years of the City Council. The last 4 years, we've had a 96. Let's go back to 2000. This includes 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. We've had a total of 96 meetings, 24 meetings a year. So that equates to 96 meetings. In that time, we have read 198 ordinances. 198 ordinances. In 2016 and in 2017, we had no objections to have second and third readings at the same meeting. So there was no issue. There was no issue there. It never happened. So in 2018, we had 3. In 2019, we've had 3. So out of 2 years, we had 2 instances, we had 6 instances of people objecting. So, there's no proof that there was no proof that this minute amount of objections curtailed the work of the council or offended anyone in public. Because as being a president of the council for the past 2 years, if somebody objected to third readings, I never had anyone from the council come up to me and say, well, why did that happen? Now I got to wait another 2 weeks. It never happened. So with the passage of this ordinance, I think what's happening is we're going to tie the hands of council people that want to act as an individual, as we were voted into these offices as individuals. We weren't voted in as 3 council people here and 6 over there. We're all individual council people. And my point to the new council members is that this is a powerful tool for you the way it is now. It gives you the option to stop or slow down an ordinance you feel needs more investigation or more public input before you can make a vote that you are comfortable with and you were elected to do. If we pass this, the council members will now have to go out and lobby fellow council members, which after I thought about it, and I'm looking up here, you're not going to be able to lobby anybody. You're not going to be able to lobby two other council people. Now you're going to sit here and text them. Okay, and we're not supposed to be doing that. So, vote by the facts that you have been presented here this evening, not what you have been told about the past, or not even withdraw for yourself, or not even witness. I should say you have not even witnessed. Mr. Mack, Councilwoman Tillman, Mr. Przybylski, I know you're an experienced councilman, you've witnessed it, but you new council people have not even witnessed what this could do to you as far as having that power to pull back and be as an individual, not have to do it as a group. With that being said, of course you know where I stand. I'm not in favor of this, and I'm hoping that my fellow colleagues will take an individualistic look at this and not be swayed one way or the other by whose opinion you're listening to. And secondly, there's also that's all I have this evening, is to comment on that ordinance and to be an individual and let it happen. If it gets out of control, then maybe you can take another look at it. But there is nothing out of control, and I know that the purpose of this was to expedite the council meetings, I believe, is one of the things that I heard, was to expedite the council meetings so we're not holding the public up. There is no issue with expedition of the council meetings right now. And by having this, I'm going to say it for the last time, if you vote for this, what you are doing is you are taking away a powerful tool as a council person. If you don't like the way something is going, it'll give you more time to investigate it. It'll give you more time to get opinions. And if any council member up here can explain to me how you're going to lobby two more votes when all of a sudden it's going to come up for second and third readings, how you're going to lobby those two votes, I'd love to hear that argument at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further council comments?
Yeah.
Councilman Dabney.
Yeah, in all my time here, I've never been one that has stepped in to say, I would object to second and third hearing, but I would like to preserve my right to do that. So I understand where our Councilman Tom Przybylski is coming from, and I agree with that, because I would like to continue to have my right as a single councilman to be able to stop a second and third reading if I may, one, need to inform some people that live in certain neighborhoods in my area, or inform my constituents, or I need to gather more information before I make a decision. But as I stated, I've never done it before. I've never been one of those two have objected to second and third reading, but I would like to preserve my right to be able to do that. So I understand where he's coming from, and I would vote against this as well.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Dykes.
This ordinance is not specifically about second and third reading. It's about all council rules. And the way I see, and it's not necessarily about stopping a second and third reading or anything like that. The way I look at first reading, if I'm presenting something to the public as an ordinance, as a city council person, I should be doing my due diligence during that time frame. Soon as I bring it up for consideration, that's why we had the committee meeting as well. So it's not specifically in regards to that. It's regards to all rules. is the way it's been presented. So I'm not certain about lobbying for second and third. It's more about any council rule is what my goal was, even in talking with Jim about this in particularly. So it's not to hold up second and third readings at all. It's more about the council rules in general, the 2/3. Unanimous is about all of the rules for that section, is what that is. Not specifically about one rule in particular, because again, first reading, second reading. If we're working together and there's an issue, that's why we table things. We bring an amendment and we table it until we get more information. And we've done that. We tabled one the first meeting. And that's how that works. All I'm saying is, and it wasn't a lot, data is great, but I'm not saying, oh my God, every single time this held this meeting up. That was never the case. I didn't say it was all the time or anything like that. But all it is that's for all council rules, not specifically second and third. So again, I move for adoption.
We have a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion to adopt by Councilwoman Deitch and a second by Councilman Mack. And there's a comment by Councilman Prespolinski.
Yes, I rise in opposition of this ordinance and support of everything that Councilman Dabney and Councilman Prespolinski stated earlier. I disagree with the statement of that is correct. I'm sorry. Okay, there was a motion made on, shouldn't there be public comment on it?
Yeah, we tabled that.
That
part was tabled.
Are we out of order? I guess that's.
Yes, we are.
Okay. I'll reserve my comment for after public input. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any public comments on this resolution? This ordinance? Mayor Perry?
Dwayne Perry, Mayor of Michigan City. Mr. President, council members, I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but because I can't do that. But what I will say that I do not feel that this should be approved, because what it is doing is violating the trust of the voter that put us all in office. It's lowering transparency. It's shortening the window that the community has, the voters that we're all here to serve. It's shortening that window of theirs to input and judge. I really believe that this is not in the best interest of the business of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Perry.
Tom Smith, 1710 West 10th Street. I totally agree with what the mayor just said here. When you guys talk, I know that you're well informed, but the people out here, a lot of times the first time I hear this is a first reading. And sometimes I'm not even educated by the second reading. So I want the time to go and talk to my council people, to the people at large, and say, is this against my best interest? Is this against the city's best interest? But if a thing gets brought into by the second reading, it's that second and third, my chances are gone. And that's what I'm concerned about, because this is about the people of Michigan City. And you're the representatives, and we appreciate that. But it is about the people, and the people need the time to go through these readings. So every time it's done to and I've seen it go to this third reading and said, man, I wish I would have been to that meeting. But I wasn't, So please consider that.
Thank you. Any further public comment?
Hi, Ernie Hallahan, Michigan City, Indiana, 302 Gladys Street. This brings an old ordinance up that I was involved in under the landlord's ordinance that you guys were trying to pass. And if that would have been passed on the first reading, you would have never got the true facts on it, and you would have never threw that ordinance out. Us landlords would have been stuck with that ordinance, which would have hurt a lot of landlords in this city. And fortunately, you got all the facts from the landlords and eventually agreed that that ordinance wasn't fair for the landlords alone. So I don't agree with this either, because that will be throwing a lot of ordinances out on the first. I can't agree with that. You got to go all the way through to the third one and get all the facts, because that is a perfect example of you needing all three of them. Because you were very close to voting that landlord's ordinance in. And thank you.
Kathy Stransky, 223 East Barker Ave. Here is another scenario. People do not get the News Dispatch anymore. By the time they get word of what's happening, they don't have the opportunity to come down to this building and be a part of it if we don't have 3 readings. You take the South Shore thing, you take the landlord thing. It took a lot of work, it took a lot of footwork to get out there and get the people involved. If you don't have 3 readings, then you don't have a true feel for the people of Michigan City. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further public comments on this ordinance? Any further council comments? Councilman Prespolinski.
Well, thank you. Like I said earlier, I agree with everything that Councilman Dabney said and Councilman Don Prespolinski, what the mayor and some people from the audience have already said about this. And I believe there's some issues in here that haven't been brought up. Number one, I want to address the statement of a tyranny in one statement. There's not a tyranny. It's your right as a council person and this institution that you serve on, because those rules have been in place as long as I can remember. When I sat on this city council with my father, when I first got involved, those rules have been in place. They've been in place for a reason and have not been objected to for over 50 years that I know of. And it is what Councilman Dabney says and Councilman Prespolinski, is that it's about your right and your trust that the citizens elected you to do the best thing. Because what can happen is an ordinance can be fast-tracked, is exactly what Councilman Prespolinski said, that somebody can come in here and have an ordinance on the book and ask for it to be read on third reading. So now you have to get 6 council members, and you may not be satisfied with the information you have in front of you, and you want 2 more weeks to investigate it further. That's all it is. It's not about a tyranny. It's about your right to develop information and for the public to have that information. The prime example is this. What happened at our last meeting when I asked that the docket be amended so I could investigate something on the docket. Now, when I made that amendment, somebody could have objected to it, and then I would have voted against the docket. That's my only right I have. But then that docket would have went through, and I'll tell you exactly the scenario what happened before we take a vote here. The word forensic had something go off because prior in the year in 2019, we were talking about things that the police department wanted to do and what they wanted to fund. And we are investigating that, and it's still open. We haven't confirmed anything that we're going to do on it. So I went down to the police department several times and left messages to talk to somebody about this item. Well, yesterday, after leaving messages with the administrative assistant there, I finally got a phone call back to get some information on this that I shared at the financial meeting we had earlier. Then earlier today, I got a call back from another deputy chief to find out what this camera, or this, it's not a camera, it's a lease for maintenance on this item. But that's a perfect example of your right as a council person to investigate something, to get the facts. And it's not a tyranny. What it really is taking your rights away. As an elected official, I'm going to put it out there, I think it's high-handed politics. That's what I think it is. Your right, my right, that we can investigate something. It's not a tyranny. And I think my brother also put out enough information to show you that it doesn't happen all the time. But you should have the right to put a stop on the train if you need more information. And like people from the audience said, that they might want some more information, and we need to respect the transparency of this body, this institution that we serve on, that's been preserved, and this has not been a case that I can remember ever changing that council rule. I don't think it's been overused. I think it's been used in cases where there needs to be more information developed, and so the public knows and council people know what's going on with the item on the agenda. That's the true essence of this. And I hope that the council members will not vote their rights away. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Deitch.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Meyer. What I put in there was the 2/3 vote in one, except for Section 250. I didn't put 2/3 vote in the Section 257A. It's in the provisions of this division may be repealed or amended by majority vote of the members of the council-elect. Where did I put that? I'm trying to make sure. In addition, I think it was in Section B, right? I'm trying to pull it up. I thought there was an exception for the ordinances except for Section 257A regarding the number of readings of an ordinance. I didn't make a change for the reading of the ordinance. It's for the council rules. That is an exception for the number of readings of the ordinances. I didn't put anything in place as unanimous. I didn't change that. That stays in place.
Correct.
So I'm not sure what we had this discussion on on these amendments. That's an exception. The reading of the amendments is an exception. It's about other rules within the council. It's not about the 2/3 vote. That section is an exception. I didn't make the change to that. Isn't that correct?
I don't have 257A in front of me.
Here, I'll pull it up.
I got a...
257A is exempted from the 2/3 allowance.
What does that section say?
257A would only be.
It has to be
unanimous.
So by unanimous consent. Still, I didn't change the unanimous consent for the reading of the second and third readings of the ordinances.
Can you read section, what is that, section?
57A.
Can somebody read it to me?
Yes, I'll read it.
Go ahead.
Yes, I have it right here, 257A. And that's why I was like, wait a minute. we're going down this path. I figure everybody wanted to vet it out, but for the exclusion is 257A, which is the procedure for ordinance enactment. And every ordinance shall have 3 readings in council previous to passage, one at each of the 3 successive meetings, the first and second readings. It goes on and on and on. And it talks about you have to have unanimous consent for that. I didn't change that part of the ordinance at all. So I'm not sure. I didn't change that piece of it. So
is that point of order, President, is that we're debating what we already discussed, and the way I read this is that we are amending it the way it's written. And we're in 3rd reading right now, and I got another point of order, is that this piece of paper was filed in 2019, and then we got a revised copy that I guess was filed in January 21st of 2020. And did we vote on amendments on this thing on the second meeting for this bottom section, right?
Yes, Councilman.
Okay. Well, I still think that the meetings have not been excessively run in time frame, and that I believe I'm reading this provision as that we are amending that division, that subsection. So I guess we need to have a call vote on this, because at this time I think there's too much confusion on it.
Let me see if I can help clarify this. So the very first meeting that I presided as president of this council, at the end of the meeting, I asked this council, 9 individuals, for permission to suspend the rules to allow Mayor Perry time to speak at the end of the meeting, which was out of order for our agenda. If one person would have said no, then that would not have been allowed. That's all this is about. And Ms. Nyla, on the vote, please.
Okay, Mr. Don Prespolinski?
Nay.
Mr. Simmons?
Nay.
Mr. Paul Prespolinski?
Nay.
Ms. Tillman? Nay. Mr. Dabney?
Nay.
Mr. Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Mr. Mack?
Aye.
And Ms. Deitch?
aye.
We have 3 in favor and 5 opposed.
Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Unfinished business. The council has 7 appointments to the Commission on the Social Status of African American Males. Ms. Albertine Allen from the Minority Health Partners of LaPorte County, Pastor Edward Damon Carr's Ministerial Association, Ms. Felicia Kelly, Hope Community, Mr. Willie Millsap, Swanson Center, Ms. LaTanya Troutman, NAACP, Pastor Dennis Carroll, Human Rights Commission, Ms. Tracy Tillman, has to be replaced now because she's on the council and she's their liaison. So 3 of those have submitted their letters, so the rest need to get them in. The terms will expire February 15th, 2020. New business. The Common Council has 1 appointment for... I'm sorry. Oh, yeah,
Mr. President, point of order. We have to vote on these this evening?
On the 3 that we have?
Yeah, it says vote. The council has 7 appointments. I guess the ones that we can vote on that have been nominated by these different organizations.
The only 2 that you can vote on is LaTanya Troutman and Mr. Millsap. I did receive correspondence for Albertine Allen, but it wasn't prior to the deadline on last Thursday.
And Mr. Pastor Carroll from the Human Rights Commission. Not that one as well.
Human Rights. Yes, he was all right.
Okay, so we can vote on Mr. Willie Millsap from the Swanson Center, Ms. LaTanya Troutman, or no? Yes, Ms. LaTanya Troutman from the NAACP and Pastor Dennis Carroll from the Human Rights Commission. All right. All in favor of accepting these appointments, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, they're reappointed to the social status of African American males. On to new business. The Common Council has one appointment to the Michigan City Tree Board. Term expires March 15th, 2020. The incumbent is Ms. Laura Henderson. Has there been any letter of appointment for Ms. Henderson?
This is no, we haven't
Or is
received
this
anything.
FYI? Okay.
And it has to come from the neighborhood association.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Nyla. Okay, so on to more FYIs. Mayor Perry is requesting the advice and consent of the member of the Michigan City Council regarding the appointment of Elena Ursida as a member of the Michigan City Tree Board. Mayor Perry is requesting the advice and consent of the Michigan City Council regarding the appointment of Ms. Robin Cohn as a member of the Public Art Committee. Mayor Perry is requesting the advice and consent of the council regarding the appointment of Ms. Shannon Easton as a member of the Michigan City Public Art Committee. Mayor Perry is requesting the advice and consent of Michigan City Council regarding the appointment of Ms. Jane Daly as a member of the Public Art Committee. Mayor Perry is requesting the advice and consent of the council regarding the appointment of Ms. Judy Jacoby as a member of Michigan City Public Art Committee. Mayor Perry is requesting the advice and consent of the council regarding the appointment of Ms. Carol Ann Brown as a member of the Public Art Committee. Mayor Perry is requesting the advice and consent of the member of Michigan City Common Council regarding the appointment of Matt Kubik as a member of the Public Art Committee. Mayor Perry is requesting the advice and consent of the council regarding the appointment of Kathy Dennis as a member of Michigan City Public Art Committee. And if there are no objections, I would like to suspend the rules and go through with these appointments now instead of taking it to the next meeting so they could get in their roles. Are there any objections? Aye. They'll be carried over to the next meeting.
Mr. President, what's that?
Yeah, I
Order.
object. I object.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any comments from the public? Yes, this is public comment. Are there any comments from the public?
Mr. President, I have a point of order.
Yes.
If I could. Just possibly for educational purposes, but so after you read through all the FYIs, then I think you were making a motion that we vote on these nominations.
I was asking if there were any objections to take this to a vote now, and there were none.
Oh.
Except
for you.
Correct.
Okay.
Tyranny of one.
But, I mean, what if the council, what if there were some council members that didn't want to vote on it? I mean, what gives the president the only right to vote?
I get one vote. It's unanimous consent.
It's not a vote, it's just an objection.
Yeah, I want
it's
to
an
suspend the
objection.
rules.
Right. So whether one objected or eight objected.
Yeah.
He
So-
made a motion, he tried to suspend the rules, and then he objected to it.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we can't suspend the rules because it has to be unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comments.
I was not, Tom Smith, 1710 West 10th Street. I was not here at the last meeting. I really wish I would have been to hear about the further deficits that the city has incurred. We had a Disneyland mayor here and maybe even Disneyland City Council that spent the family money, to take us to these fine places and didn't really take a look at what the rent money was going to come from. Now we're at the place where we are in financial trouble. I appreciate some people taking some responsibility for it, and I hope that you will put in some safeguards in the future that we can't have this gross amount of overruns without you guys' attention to it. I also hope that you will take a look at every request, because we have drained the Riverboat Fund. We are $3.5 million in debt, or $4 million at shortfall, And all this has happened when we are in some of the best financial times, according to the country, as we've ever been in. So if we can't control our spending now, what's going to happen when we have the downturn, which they say is going to be coming soon? And so I hear all the money being appropriated, and I know some of these bills were passed, and I'm not saying it's all on your responsibility here, but I did hear, again, money coming out of the Riverboat Fund. Well, we've got to take this. I also heard today that trees were free, but I did hear a $35,000 bill for free trees. So, you know, I just hope you look at everything that comes through with a jaundiced eye now, because now you have to be the adults. You have to rein in the spending, and that's not fun. You know, I wished you all congratulations when you got in. Maybe I should have given you my condolences, because this is a hard time. And I hope that you will look at it as that and try to rein the spending in, look at everything and say, is this a need or is this a want? Unfortunately, the administration before spent all kinds of things on wants. I don't think they spent the money properly, but it was spent on wants, a lot of it. So please look at it in the future and say, is this a need or a want? And yes, you know, it's great to be a Disneyland guy, but the family needs shoes, the family needs a roof over our house, or a roof over our heads, and that was missed this last administration. So I congratulate you for being in, but I hope you really take a look at things and try to get things in order. We should have a bank account now. You know, we should have emergency fund. We shouldn't be in an emergency. We should be on top of our game, because the finances have been good, and it's not going to last forever. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comments?
Yeah, Ernie Hallahan, 302 Gladys Street, Michigan City, Indiana.
Can you repeat that for the record, please? Your name and address.
Ernie Hallahan, 302 Gladys Street.
Thank you.
I see our tree board lady left, but I want to comment on that for one. I seen on the news before I came, in China, they have created these gigantic filter like with moss in it, and it does the same thing as what a tree does. And they've got a couple in London now. So that sounds like a good plan to get rid of all the carbon that's coming out of the cars and that. But in my area alone, all the trees, I had the tree board out. It was a gentleman, I don't remember his name, but all the trees are dying. All the oak trees. And the biggest part of it that killed mine anyway was the big black carpenter ants. They're terrible in my area. There's one house on Emma Street at the very end. I don't think they have one live tree left in the yard, and there's probably 15 trees in that yard, and they're completely dead. So something is happening with our trees. I had to, like I said, I had to have 4 taken out of my yard because they were dead. Carpenter ants got to them. I had a telephone line coming to my house, and I would stand there and watch the carpenter ants in a row just going down that telephone line going into my house. Plus, we're a big area for termites also. So there is issues with our trees. And I see on Woodland Ave, they're taking out a whole bunch of trees. I don't know what they're going to be building there by the car wash over on Woodland Ave, right before you get to 20. They must be going to build something in there because they're taking all the trees out of there. So I just wanted to put that point across. But you can't take no trees out without, if it's on city property, without getting the tree board's authority. And if they're dead, I had to have one taken out because it's right out on borderline And it's right where I parked my truck. And if I didn't have it taken out, it was going to fall on my truck. So there's a big issue with dying trees in town. We lost a lot during the storm out here in the park. We lost a lot of trees there. So I'm going to try to catch up with her and call her and have her come back out to my area, because he was going to do something about my neighbor on Emma Street with all the dead ones. I don't want them falling off on my shed or my fence or that, so I'll try to catch up with her. But I just wanted to bring that point across, that they're moving in the right direction as far as creating things. Like, of course, China gets there first before us. But eventually, maybe we'll get them here in Chicago and all the big towns in California that have smog problems. We'll be able to use those machines to replace the trees.
Thank you.
Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street. First, I'd like to congratulate our firefighters that here earlier and their family on all their promotions. And I also want to express my gratitude to my fellow residents from the Indiana Department of Corrections. They are our fellow residents. When census is taken, they're included in our population count for doing the litter pickup along Meyer Drive this past weekend. It's very disturbing to me seeing all that litter, and it all gets into the wetland areas that surround all those properties over there on the south end. And I do have somewhat of a solution for that. In the city of Chicago, they have back in February of 2017, they imposed a 7-cent per bag tax on each bag that they use at their stores. Right now there's a measure in the Illinois House, they want to make it statewide, that it's a nickel per bag. Perhaps that's something the city, they said that when they imposed the tax in Chicago, it reduced usage 38%. Okay. I'd like to see the Sisters of Francis establish their own paratransit service to bring their patients to their facility. Okay, they've decided to relocate their facility outside city limits. I can't call a dial right and have them take me to my mother's house out in the county and take me back, so they need to establish their own. That's how I feel about it. Thirdly, I want to wish you all a happy Black History Month. February's Black History Month, and this council is a part of Black history. This is the first time in the history of Michigan City that we've had a black majority on the council, so all of Michigan City should be very proud of that. Okay. And that's my public comment, and you all have a good evening, and I'm Len O'Connor.
Thank you. Any further public comment? Any further public comment? Council comment? Councilwoman Tillman.
Thank you, President. I just first and foremost just want to say thank you for allowing me to attend the NEOA newly elected officials training the 21st of January down in Indianapolis, Indiana. I chose to attend the training because I wanted to become a little bit more familiar and to get a closer look into the basic operations of government. They held different types of workshops which covered things such as municipal finances and budgeting, ethics and purchasing. They had open discussions about the TIF. These workshops was all geared towards how to operate and have a functional municipal government, which is what all of our goals are here today. The ever-changing laws and the procedures that takes place within our municipality necessitated the importance for me to attend the conference. One thing that I took from that I was hearing a lot of with the elections coming up for next year, for our legislative regarding our Senate, the House of Representatives, is the same way that you looked up information pertaining to all of the ones that ran for council. Make sure you do the same thing for who you're going to vote for your Senate, your House of Representatives, because they have information. There's things that you need to know. What is their platform? So when you get on social media, as we all do, and we find out somebody said this something and say, hey, let's support this bill. Don't just say, okay, I accept, and you vote for that bill. Ask that individual to send you that full bill and read it in its entirety to make sure, because just because you got that one bill within that bill, you may be approving for something else that is going to affect or have a major impact on us as a whole later on. So I just want to make sure that everybody is conscious and aware, and that you do your due diligence to make sure that when it's time for you to vote, that you know who you're voting for and what they're standing for.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Simmons.
Yes, I would also like to congratulate our firefighters who received their badges tonight. I think that was great. And as well as commend Marty Corley and the Michigan City Black History Committee for sponsoring the 2020 Black History Kickoff Brunch at the Lebesnick Center this past Saturday. And I just would like to also commend our Councilman Dyke for being keynote speaker. I think she did a great job. Her main theme was to be significant, and that says a lot.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Dabney.
Yep. I have something I want to read tonight. In this kind of appropriate timing, somebody brought this issue up. So I'll just get right into it. In response to a recent News Dispatch article about the city budget shortfalls, I felt the need to write this to inform the public and be a voice of reason from the city council. There's been inflammatory rhetoric stating, in my opinion, the city is in financial ruin. I agree we can always look for ways to be more efficient with city finances, but I feel this can be fixed with a few changes to some procedures. No, this is not a great situation, but these issues can and will be fixed moving forward. Regarding the $3.6 million shortfall reported by the News Dispatch, these explanations I feel the public needs to be aware of. There was no stealing, fraud, or any embezzlement. That was not reported by the News Dispatch, but that has been asked of me in the streets. So there's no stealing, fraud, or any embezzlement. It was simply overestimating the expected revenues which produced these cash shortfalls. Departments did not overspend expenditures set forth by the city council and the mayor approved budgets. The first $1.6 million transfer in December from the riverboat and the county economic development income tax, the seeded fund, into the general fund was needed because of the overestimating of tax dollars coming into the city, and not department spending over what was actually budgeted for the 2019 year. The other $1,798,000 transfer from the riverboat and the seeded funds in January 2020 are broken down as follows. I read this at the meeting when I proposed the resolution, but I decided to read them again because it just didn't make the cut in the News Dispatch. Fund 2002 Aviation Operation was a $55,000 transfer. Due to lower than normal revenues generated from fuel sales, the aviation operation budget suffered a cash shortfall. It was not due to overspending the budget. In fact, the budget was so tight regarding budgeting expenses that there was no money elsewhere to be transferred to cover that shortage in fuel sales. Thus, the city needed to make a transfer to keep this fund from finishing 2019 in the red. Fund 4002, the Cumulative Capital Development Fund. There was a $143,000 transfer. During 2019, there was a purchase of a pumper truck in the amount of $800,000. This purchase expended a huge amount of funds at one time, and after this large purchase, there was poor forecasting going forward, anticipating revenues that would be there to cover these expenditures with that $100,000 purchase coming out. Fund 5004, let me read it that way. The Michigan City Employee Medical Trust Fund. $600,000 transfer. This fund was budgeted too closely to pass actual expenditures. When the expenditures increase at any point in any year, the reserves in this fund are expended. This account started 2019 in the red due to rises in spending due to city covering more catastrophic illnesses than usual. Now with this current transfer of $600,000, this will make the account solvent and provide a cushion to absorb any unforeseen expenditures. Fund 7002, police pension, there was a $600,000 transfer, and Fund 7003, fire pension, $400,000 transfer. In 2008, the state passed a law where these accounts no longer receive property taxes, and there were other miscellaneous expenses that were no longer being reimbursed by the state. The city did not make the adjustments back in 2008 to account for this lack of revenue, and over time, the reserves in these accounts were just simply eaten away. Eventually, these accounts ended up in the red, and these transfers, along with taking into account these changes that should have been accounted for, like I said, back in 2008, will make these accounts solvent again and provide some reserves going forward. Finally, I'm giving this report to tell the public this is not an ideal situation by any means, but it is not the doom and gloom that has been allowed to get out into the public. As I stated before, there was no stealing, fraud, or embezzlement. There was not overspending of the council and mayor approved budgets, but rather an overestimation of revenues coming into the city coffers. The city is already making proper adjustments, and I want everyone in the public to know this is a very fixable situation, and this city will continue to move forward in the future as we fix these situations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Mack.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last weekend, I had the opportunity to attend a workshop with the Commission on Sustainability. I am the liaison to that group. It was a pleasure working with the group. I left extremely impressed with the passion, the knowledge, the experience, and the background of everybody on that team. Some of the things that the Commission on Sustainability aim to do is advocate for the conservation of energy sources, energy efficient buildings, and the use of renewable clean energy, encourage recycling and the use of recycled materials, promote and use local food sources and businesses. And I heard so much expertise on the food sources and some transportation issues. And I'm looking forward to getting to the point where we can bring that group here to the council meetings and start creating some legislation and some ideas that we can vote on and talk about. There's a bill currently working through the state government right now that's actually trying to slow down the ability of energy companies to transition from coal to clean energy. So it's almost like telling NIPSCO they can't go, and I got a feeling all of us would probably like to see them continue with that plan that they have. So I'm looking forward to working with this group the rest of the my term, and I'm hoping that you guys will see some of the professionalism and some of the great minds that we have working on that team. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Can I just piggyback real quick on just a quick comment? I know what I read was a lot, but this will be going up on my personal Facebook page, my Bryant Dabney for Council Facebook page, the Eastport Neighborhood Improvement Group page, as well as at 10 o'clock, it'll go up on citybythelake.org. So you'll get a chance to read everything that I just read to you. I know it was quite a lot to hear, but these will be going up on Facebook for you to read yourself tonight.
Councilman Krasnowski. Paul.
Thank you, President. I would like to congratulate the firefighters, and it's when you're a public servant and you serve in that emergency response capability and the families, you have to give the families' consideration on their dedication. And I thought it was very, very moving tonight to see the firefighters with their families, you know, as individuals. And, you know, there's another side to all these people. And also, I would like to say that with Mr. Dabney's comments, that I do agree with everything that you talked about. But also, is that these funding projections, you need to remember where that came from for the general public and the council themselves. That was a budget developed by the mayor and his controller for the city council to go over. And they had the projections, and I don't know how you could be that far off when you could talk to the county auditor and some of these people to get the information, to have a grip of this. And I personally think that we're going to work our way out of this, but it's just like I asked Yvonne questions about how much money was in the Riverboat Fund, like 2008, 2009, there was like almost $6 million in that fund. So, I mean, we have a goal to get those monies back in there, and I think there's some stop gaps that need to be taken through the finance committee and the city council and the mayor's office with these departments and that how they watch their money. And also that I think the mayor's taken a good step on letting these department heads know that they better watch their pennies. Okay? And that's the bottom line here. Because we got to dig ourselves out of this hole. Because what we have to remember is when we spent that money already, now we don't have money to spend on what I consider quality of life projects, neighborhood projects. And I think that we're going to get there, and we're going to work hard at it and diligently at bringing these finances back around. And I thank the mayor for doing what he did and having his departmental head meeting and bringing that forward. So, you know, we got to look at changing some things how the city runs. Another thing is that we do have an ordinance on the books, and it talks about the rainy day fund. There's no money in that fund. So now we have to deliberate what are we going to address and how that money should be put in there. Or here's the way I look at it. We got to watch everything that's allocated, and we won't have any money if it's spent properly, and we let people know that some of these contracts and services that they're contracting for needs to be reviewed. Somehow we need to cooperate with the mayor's office and the council and say we need to talk to their representatives and saying, what are you spending this money on? And I think this next budget cycle is going to be a lot of work. But we're going to be watching those pennies, dimes, and nickels, because that adds up to $1, doesn't it? As long as you get enough. 100 pennies, 10 dimes. I'll let it go at that, and I want to thank the council members on not voting your right away this evening. I won't tell you individually, I'll tell you publicly. And what I said, I meant what I said about this institution that we serve on, and the people elected us here for a reason. That it was for trust in our experience. And you'll find out at some point in your career, your tenure, that you'll pull that objection plug. And I don't take offense to it. That's part of the authority that's vested in you when you took that oath of office. Thank you.
Councilman Don Prespolinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I also would like to congratulate the firefighters that were here this evening. I know they walked out pretty briskly and they were enjoying their promotions, and I want to congratulate them individual or as a group. They're not here now. The fire department does a great job for Michigan City. I think, and I've approved many ordinances for them because I believe that we have to provide the best possible equipment, and the city council has a responsibility to do that, to make sure that, that those firefighters, that they get home safe and in one piece, just the same way as they come to work. And just to touch on this financial situation real fast, as I thank Councilman Dabney, being the president of the Finance Committee, which he is. That's a great report and kind of puts it in perspective, which I know that the council members were aware of that, but a lot of the folks in the public aren't aware of it. And yeah, is the city in financial distress? Yeah. Are we in financial trouble? I'm not going to say yes. I mean, we're going to work our way out of this. Certain things happen with the controller and our city consultant, I'm going to say center and center, which we pay $30,000 a year to, who was at the meeting in December when the Common Council was first made aware of this financial crisis, of what was going on. We were not aware of what happened before then. Every month prior to that, we had $5.5, $6 million in a riverboat, and we've always finished with approximately $5.5 to $6 million in a riverboat every year, except for this year. And with the administration knowing back in September that this was going on, but didn't tell the city council until December that this issue was above our heads and we were in trouble, to me is the most troubling aspect of this whole situation. We should have been told when it first came out. But then I was made aware, well, we didn't want to talk about it because we had a city election going on and we didn't want to bring that out at that time. So to me, a lot of the blame is what happened with our consultant, what happened with our city controller, and of course the mayor. Lack of leadership in that respect. And here we sit today with what we got, and it's going to get fixed. Mayor Perry is taking measures. I've spoken to Mayor Perry a couple of times already about this issue. And Michigan City is going to move forward. Michigan City is going to keep moving on. And that's the way it is. So, thank you, Mr. President.
I kind of got out of order. I forgot mayor comments. So, I do have Councilwoman Deitch, and then I'll call you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate Councilman Dabney's comments. Look forward to having that and sharing that on my page as well. But also, Mr. Smith, thank you for the comments that you had. I think you were spot on in what you said about our finances and what we need to do. The Disney analogy was awesome. I think that puts it in perspective. A couple of things with the fire department. Congratulations again to the firefighters, but we also have 3 new recruits that will be graduating from the academy on February 14th. We had a Fire Merit Commission meeting last night. Executive Director Mrs. Tatanisha George said a few words last night about looking at the merit ordinance, and we'll be setting up time along with the Fire Merit Commission and Chief Krivak. Did I say that right? Krivak. as far as talking through and looking through the ordinance to see if there's anything that we need to discuss or talk through. I know he has some ideas. Also, the Charlie Westcott event is at the Boys and Girls Club on February 15th. That's his actual 100th birthday, from 1 to 3 p.m. at the Boys and Girls Club. And then lastly, there was a press release for the Michigan City Neighborhood Leadership Academy. And again, thank you to the mayor. I mentioned this before, for allowing this to move forward. We're going to be looking for applicants from all 6 wards, sponsored by the Urban Enterprise Zone, along with Horizon Bank and the Unity Foundation. We're looking for 30 community members to participate, and we're looking at 2 people from each neighborhood to represent all 6 wards. So applications are due pretty fast. I think February 14th is the deadline. You can find the application online, or you can email info@mc. I'll have to look it up again, but you can find the application online on the Michigan City Economic Development Corporation website, or you can email me at anelson@emichigancity.com. But that Leadership Academy is designed to build bench strength within the neighborhoods, to start associations, to get more community engagement, to learn about what all the city departments do. The mayor has stepped up to make sure that all of his city departments will be participating. It's an 8-week academy with the graduation in April, but again, a great opportunity. The goal is to be able to do one this spring, but also to do one in the fall, hopefully, if we get some additional funding for that. So again, we need people to sign up for it soon, because it's kicking off on March 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mayor Perry. I gotta get used to your.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize that you keep deviating from the rules of order to allow me to speak, but
I really missed you this time, actually.
Yeah, I know there is no mayor's comment, so, but I really do appreciate it, because I'd like to respond to a few things that the comments that were made by the council and Mr. Smith, that we had some bad things happen that should have happened. Two specifically, the fire truck that was purchased, the controller's office, our former controller, was made aware that the funds were not available, and I believe August, and that word was never passed to the fire department. So the truck was ordered. That's $800,000. And then the former Board of Public Works that had a current controller and a former controller on it approved, before the new administration took office, the purchase of 8 new police vehicles, another $500,000. So there was some real negligence involved there, and some ignorant well, not ignorance, there was no ignorance, they knew better. But I want to assure the council and the public, council, I assure you, the books are going to be open. We're going to look through them together. And I'm going to tell you that right now, I've been working with the controller. We are looking at every open purchase order, every vendor that we have with the city, to verify the necessity of them. And the last administration, not just the last administration, for too long, Michigan City's been on autopilot because we get the check once a month from Blue Chip. We're taking it off autopilot, and we're controlling the ship ourselves now. We're looking at every expenditure. We've canceled some contracts already, some contracts that we used to have that allowed regular billing. We've stopped that. They're on an as-need basis. They don't do anything until we tell them we need something done. And they don't get paid until the work has been completed. The requested work has been completed successfully and acceptably. So the pulse, as we go on into the year 2020, the pulse of the city is going to get stronger. And as we sit down, we start our budgeting process in June, and we start looking at where we're at. We're going to see better things already happening. We're going to see larger amounts of money in funds. It's going to take us a while to dig out of the hole, but the steps are in place now to do that, and they're going to be ongoing. And we're going to do this together.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if all minds are clear, I would like to call for a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn by Councilwoman Dyke. Support. And support, second by Councilman Dabney. All in favor, signify by saying aye. 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 Good night.